President Biden kicking off his hosting duties today for a three-day summit to mark the 75th anniversary of NATO's founding. Now, the event will be filled with remarks from foreign leaders and meetings addressing a range of global issues. And President Biden's performance will be closely watched after a weak showing at the first presidential debate prompted calls for him to exit the 2024 race. Here with more is Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman. Rick, no shortage of a list of topics to discuss here today, but let's start with the NATO summit since it is kicking off down in D.C. today. I guess my question to you is, does President Biden need to prove something to these foreign leaders over the next 3 days just about whether or not he is fit for the job?
I'd say he has something to prove to American voters more than he has to prove to foreign leaders. Starting with, can he remember everybody's name? We know what's going on here. Increasingly public questions about whether President Biden is fit for the job after that terrible performance on June 27th in the debate against Donald Trump. Some of this is going to be behind closed doors, and we're not going to know exactly how Biden comports himself. But he is going to hold a press conference on Thursday. Biden has not done very many press conferences, and his administration is now under pretty heavy fire for accusations that they've kind of been hiding Biden's aging by not putting him out in these types of public events very much. So what I think is going to happen is Biden is going to have to get out and really show that he can handle the heat, and that's going to be part of the subtext here. I would add, this is an important meeting. This is not just a ceremonial meeting because it's a 75th anniversary of NATO. Really important because of what's going on in Ukraine. Let's not lose sight of the fact that there is a huge war still going on in Eastern Europe, and I would like to point out that that $61 billion that President Biden had such a hard time getting Congress to appropriate for additional weapons for Ukraine has made a huge difference in this war. The narrative of this war has really changed during the last couple of months. Russia was making advances because Ukraine just didn't have the weapons and to some extent the manpower. They now have the weapons, and they have stopped Russia. And there's new analysis suggesting that Russia is just stuck. It may never be able to get out of the quagmire it's in. And for what it's worth, the Russian army sinking into the quicksand in eastern Ukraine, that is in America's interest. So that is something that NATO, is going to be talking about. And to some extent, that is a success. But obviously, there's a lot more to do on that.
Rick, and we know that that's going to be a key focus for a lot of people who are tracking Biden's performance and his messaging. But a lot of other people, those who he's fundraised with over the past years. Talk to us a bit about Biden's fundraising efforts. The campaign says it has $240 million cash on hand. We're seeing some reports that fundraising has gotten harder since the debate.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. And we have to point out here that we only know what's happening with fundraising in real time when the campaigns tell us what's going on. For the real data, that there's a lag in that data. Biden has continued to pull in what we would call small dollar donations. These are normal people. They're not giving $10 million to a super PAC. They're giving, it could be $20, $50, $200. The limit for the campaign donations is $3,300. My colleague Ben Werschel has a story out today looking at the CEOs of the Fortune top 100 companies in the Fortune 500. He has found that going through all the campaign donation records at the FEC, that big CEOs of the biggest companies in the United States are giving a lot less money to candidates and to super PACs than they did in the past, which indicates kind of what we see among the public, that CEOs of the biggest companies kind of want to sit this one out, at least at the presidential level. They may not really want to be associated with either candidate or either cause at this point. They are still donating a lot of money to congressional candidates because they want to keep their influence there. But they're getting turned off a little bit from presidential politics, just like most of the rest of us, I guess you could say.
Yes, indeed, Rick. All right. Rick, thanks so much for keeping tabs on all of
guys.
this. We'll check back in a little bit later on.